From the battlefields to the boardrooms, the spirit of a veteran is unyielding. Risk takers, disciplined executors, team builders. Military service has forged us into professionals with the ability to get it done. But what's next after service? Meet the legends. Fred Smith, founder of FedEx. Jewett Cathy, founder of Chick-fil-A. Ross Perot, founder of Perot Systems. Phil Knight, founder of Nike. And Gordon Logan, founder of Sport Clips. They turned their military discipline into entrepreneurial success. And so can you. Why franchising? It's the ideal pathway for a vetrepreneur. A proven business model, a roadmap to success, and an industry that understands the skills you bring. Franchising means using proven systems, intensive training, and a support system designed to make you successful. 1 out of every 7 franchises is owned by a military veteran. You can join their ranks. Your next mission awaits, and we're here to guide you. Your legacy is just beginning.
Hello, my name is Sarah Brown, and I am excited to kick off the informational session about franchising. As the video that I do like shows, veterans tend to do quite well in franchising. And the reason they do is a testament to the fortitude and the ability to take with training and take SOPs and execute the heck out of things. So what are we going to talk about today? What can you expect? We're going to do a quick little get to know you poll. Then we're going to talk about franchising 101. What are some of the terms? We like our terms. We're going to talk a little bit about the fees. Most of you on the call are probably new to exploring franchising. So we will walk through some of the myths, the 10 steps to doing your due diligence, working with Vetrepreneur. What are some things around the disclosure document and financing? And then we're going to really do a deep dive into what is the Franchise Vetrepreneur Academy and application process. So it's an exciting program. I think you'll get out a lot of today's meeting. So let's go ahead and learn a little bit more about all of you. Okay, so what branch of the service were you in? I'm a Navy veteran myself, so Navy, but what branch were you in? We have some folks that we work with that are Space Force, Coast Guard, and then military spouses. Vetrepreneur works with veterans and their families at no cost to you. Okay, Air Force is coming in. All right. We have some Marine Corps, Army, Navy. Okay, fantastic. No military spouses. And this comes up in the questions all the time. And so you're going to hear this a few times, but if you have a question, please put it in the chat anytime. If we can answer it on the appropriate slide, we will, but we will answer it at the end. Oh, good, military spouse. If you have a significant other, they can be involved right from the beginning. So that's up to you. And some of our clients are the spouse. They're not the veteran themselves. Okay. Now let's go into the next question. We only have 3, so there's not a lot that you have to do. What excites you most about owning and operating your own business? If you are anything like me, about 18 years ago when I was looking at my first franchise, one of the things I thought of was independence. I liked the idea of being my own boss, but I had no idea doing what. And for me, franchising supplied the what? Escaping government bureaucracy, independence, Army, being your own boss. Generating wealth is a big one. Some people want to work with their family and they want a business that they can run with family members. Maybe it's an adult child or a spouse or another family member or a battle buddy that you served with. Okay, fantastic. And then the last question we have is, what is your biggest concern? Often there's a lot of concerns around the financial funding aspect. Spouse, that is a concern, meaning both of you should be on board. Money, yes. Failure. Franchising certainly doesn't negate your risk, but it does lower it. Everything that you do in your life is going to have some element of risk. And our process hopefully will help you sort of lower your risk by potentially finding the right, not even potentially, but match for your skill set. Okay. Time, knowledge, financing, location, absolutely. Well, we're going to jump right in, and I'm going to introduce Chris Hale, a classmate of mine at the Naval Academy. Go Navy. So we've known each other for a very long, and I won't say exactly how long. Chris was in the Navy, was in aviation, and he started Vetrepreneur 20 years ago. We have a lot of different businesses in the veteran ecosystem, and Chris is passionate about working with veterans on education, helping them find jobs, and exploring small business ownership through franchising. So without further ado, Chris, I'll turn it over to you.
Classmate, you're the best. I appreciate it. And happy Valentine's Day to you and Don Brown, who's also
I am very red. You probably noticed. Yes.
Fantastic. And happy Valentine's Day to everybody out there. I just want to say I appreciate your spouses or significant others letting you come to this on Valentine's Day. That's great. But if this is successful for you, there's going to be a lot of happy Valentines moving forward after this. So we're glad you guys are here with us on a Friday afternoon. This is without a doubt one of the most rewarding things that I get to do. And this is the reason. Sarah mentioned I've been in this space for 20 years. I have been asked countless times by veterans, I'm getting out of the military, or I've been out of the military. I've always wanted to open my own business, but I do not have an original idea for a new product or service, or I've never run a business and I'd like to do it, but I don't know what I can do. I'm willing to work hard. I'm willing to take on risk. I mean, heck, I've joined the military, right? That's a significant amount of risk. I've got a little money saved up. I've got maybe some passive income for military retirement or from a VA disability, which is always very helpful. Maybe you've got healthcare insurance. So I got all these things going for me, man. I'm willing to work the hours. I'm willing to put the time into doing it, but I just don't have an idea for a business. I need some guidance. And the beautiful thing is we get to talk about franchising. That is, I'll tell you right now, I don't know if you guys know this, but like 99% of all readers of Entrepreneur Magazine are not entrepreneurs. They're people that want to be entrepreneurs. And most people don't end up doing it. But a great way to get into it is through franchising. It's kind of this hybrid between working for somebody else as a W-2 and opening your own business from scratch, which requires a tremendous amount of risk. Very, very entrepreneurial. You're creating all of these processes up front. Sarah mentioned I was in the Navy and naval aviation. This was our Bible. This was the NATOPS manual, Naval Aviation Training and Operating Procedures Standardization. Everything in this book we had to know, and we had to know every corner of that aircraft. And that book tells us how to operate and maintain that aircraft safely and effectively. Every one of you have done the same thing, right? In your own walks of life when you were in the military, whether that was an anti-air warfare battery, whether that was you were in infantry, it doesn't matter, right? If you were in aviation, if you were in submarines or whatever, you had an operating manual that told you how to do your job safely and effectively. And sometimes you deviated from that, but you were trained and you could execute that. That's all franchising is. Somebody else has written the business plan. Somebody else, more importantly, has already executed the business plan. Because you write it, this is how we think it's going to go. You implement it, and you inevitably end up making lots of mistakes on your way to fine-tuning processes, fine-tuning product offerings, fine-tuning things like pricing and how to market it, what vendors to use, all of those infinite numbers of decisions that have to be made when you're starting a business from scratch. You're going to make lots of mistakes on your way to success. So just like the first person that flew a P-3 Orion, right, made lots of mistakes on their way to success. So this franchising concept is somebody giving you all of that, plus support from them, the franchisor, plus support from all the other franchisees in the system running the same business you're running in other parts of the country. So it's a beautiful model for people that want to open their business and don't have an idea for a new product or service, which is like 99% of all aspiring entrepreneurs. So that's what we're doing here today, guys. And we're going to talk about a couple of ways, because the other question to answer is, how do I get to that point, right? How do I evaluate this franchising thing? For nearly everybody, it's going to be a decision that you go through one time and you make that selection. It's a very, very important decision, and you need a Sherpa or a guide to help you along the way. And we've got some ways that we can help you do that. Okay, next slide. So just some background on franchising. It's a very, very prominent industry. There will be somewhere between 13 and 20,000 franchises that are open in the United States every year. 1 in 7 of those is going to be opened by a veteran. And I will tell you that only 1 in 21 working age Americans is a veteran. So veterans are literally 3 times as likely to own and operate a franchise as non-veterans. Same reasons I just told you, right? Passive income, the ability to execute a business plan, a lot of perseverance, a lot of toughness, a lot of, hey, I can take a little bit of risk and move on. That's why 3 times as likely. There will be 2,500 veterans, 7 per day, every day this year, that are going to open a franchise. And the question is, are you going to be one of those? And hopefully by the end of this, you will be able to evaluate if you think this is something that you want to pursue. And if you do, we can put you on a pathway to do that. Okay, next slide. Yeah, some of the advantages, talked about this already. You get to learn from somebody else's mistakes, right? Much less risky than a new concept. And it gives you that proven business model for success. Next slide. What you pay for, right? So you're going to pay for that expertise. That NATOPS manual is going to be, you pay for that. It's called a franchise fee. And that franchise fee is paid upfront, one time only, for the duration of the time that you own that franchise. And typically those franchise agreements are going to be anywhere from 5, usually they're either 5 or 10 years. And that franchise fee enables you to get access to all of the trade secrets, all the intellectual property, the business plan, the implementation of it, all the vendor relationships, the product, the R&D, all of that stuff. I'll also say that there are veteran discounts that are offered only to military veterans through franchising. And there are almost no other discount programs available to anybody other than veterans. And I really think that speaks volumes for how much they think of this military community. Next slide, please. The other fees you're going to pay are royalties. So these are ongoing. Unlike a franchise fee that's one time up front, that royalty is going to be paid for the duration that you own the franchise. So think of this as a way to pay for that C-level, right? The CEO, the CFO, the R&D people, all the support that you're going to have at that mothership level. Those people cost money. And so when you pay your royalties, it goes to cover all of that. That's another advantage, right? You don't have to have somebody that's doing product research and development in your business locally. You've got the franchisor that's handling that for you. So that's what these are. There will also be, oftentimes there's going to be advertising, mandatory marketing fees. All of this goes to build your business and as part of that support. Next slide. I'll turn it over
back to me.
Yeah.
All right. So, when we work with you, part of what we're trying to figure out is how do you want to operate this franchise? And there are two ways. Every franchise can be run the first way, which is owner operator, meaning you're going to be involved in the day-to-day operations of the business, also known as the owner as the general manager. Every business can be run that way. Now, over time, can you back off a little bit as you get to know the business, especially after the first year or two? Most of the time, absolutely. And that's, kind of what franchising is about. The second model is where maybe you have a day job that you want to keep. Maybe you're close to retirement. You have like a year or two to go, but you're going to stay put where you are, meaning geographically, and you want to start a business with 15 to 20 hours a week. First of all, that's pretty hard to do outside of franchising. Um, I I basically defy you to come up with a business you could start in an industry that you're unfamiliar with and spend 15 to 20 hours a week outside of franchising. But in franchising, that is relatively common. It is a little more common in retail franchises. Think food, health and beauty, and fitness, where you run it with a general manager and you're spending 15 to 20 hours a week managing the manager. So think about that. Do you want to jump in with both feet, or do you want to keep what you're doing and run it with a general manager? If you do want to go the semi absentee route, obviously it's a big decision on who is this key employee, that is going to run your day-to-day operations, and typically they are required to attend a majority of the franchise or training just like you would. Okay, so the FDD, the franchise disclosure document. What is appealing to a lot of people about franchising is that there is a certain amount of transparency to it, meaning if a franchise or is going to speak to you and share details about their franchise system, they are legally required to give you the FDD sort of as the hymnal to follow along. The good news is that for you as a consumer of a franchise opportunity, it has the same 23 items in the same order. So if you're looking at a food franchise, at a disaster, at a restoration franchise, and maybe at a senior care franchise, those are very different businesses. But item 5, 6, and 7 are always going to be the fees. Item 12 is always going to be the description of the protected territory and what that looks like in their franchise system. If they have had any litigation, they're legally required to share that with you. That will also share in there that semi-absentee manage with the manager will be clear to you in item 15. If it states in there, hey, you may run this, you are not required to participate in the day-to-day operations, you may have a designated general manager, great. If it doesn't say that, then you may not. You'll get to see what is the renewal, termination, if you want to sell it to me, which is called a transfer in franchise speak. The only optional item in the FDD is the item 19, the financial performance representation. A lot of people read it like a mystery novel and go right to the item 19. Most franchisors will make a earnings representation, but that is the most regulated part of franchise sales, meaning if the franchisor only discloses gross revenue and gross profit, which is pretty typical, and you're excited, but you kind of want to know what the net is, if they don't disclose that, they legally cannot answer it. And so when we get into the steps, when you speak to franchise owners, they'll kind of fill in a lot of those blanks, especially around financial information. Okay. You will also get to see, I'm sorry, can I go back one more? You will also get to see how many outlets. What is their success rate? I prefer success rate over failure rate because I'm a glasses half full kind of gal. But you will get a chart that will show you how many have they added, how many have closed, how many have sold. You will also get audited financials for the franchisor. And then a very key part of the FDD is an exhibit, which will be a template of the franchise agreement. So you get to see what the agreement would look like. Now, if you move forward with a franchise, they'll customize it for you, but it's nice to be able to see all of that up front. There is a cooling off period in franchising, meaning you cannot sign an agreement within 14 days of having the FDD, because you need to have a minimum amount of time to be able to review it. The FDD is updated annually, and we are coming into renewal season. Typically, most franchisors update their FDD in the spring, sometime in March or April. So if that comes up, it is not uncommon for them to be in a renewal status. Now, if you are in one of 13 registration states, and when you work with us, we will share what they are, there is an extra layer of hoop jumping and registration in those states. And just a few off the top of my head: California, Virginia, Maryland, Minnesota, where I live, New York, Washington, and several others. So if you're in one of those states, not a big deal, but we will walk you through that. Okay, now we'll go into the myths. Okay. I like this picture. I think that is Bigfoot, but most people, when you ask them, what do you think of? What is the top of mind when you hear franchise? You think food, and typically most people think fast food. Are there some fantastic food franchises? Absolutely. There are some phenomenal food franchises, but it is not all restaurants. There are over 3,000 franchises in the US. We work with about 600, and we are working on trying to vet them and evaluate them on your behalf. So more than restaurants, it's interesting when I talk to people and they're like, well, why do you think senior care may fit me? I have no experience in that industry. And I say, you know what? The interesting thing about franchising is that the only industry that may require relevant industry experience is some food, because food can be hard. Most prefer that you do not have relevant experience, meaning, hey, you're a professional, you were in the military, or you're doing something in the private sector. You bring that experience. They're the subject matter experts on how to run a flooring company, how to run an HVAC franchise. Another myth is that you must have business experience. No, for a lot of people, and I know this was true for me, if you have not owned a business before, often a franchise can be a great first business to run. You get a lot of coaching and mentorship from the franchisor, and a lot of guidance on how to do things in the right order. Hey, we don't necessarily, care which insurance carrier you have, but here's the kind of insurance you must have to protect yourself and protect your business. So a lot of those things, they're helping you and steering you in the right direction. Myth number 4 is that's the only one that maybe could be true, because it really depends on what your definition of expensive is. There are two different ways to divide up business: service and retail. Retail meaning it has a brick and mortar storefront. That typically is 2 to 3 times higher capital investment than a service franchise. But a service franchise, might be somewhere between 50 and 200,000 all in. You should be comfortable with a minimum of 20%. And if you meet the other financial requirements, of credit score above 680, a certain net worth, most good franchisors will have a liquid and a net worth requirement, because they know what makes a good loan candidate for their franchise. Doesn't mean you're going to spend it, but it means for loan qualification And so if you meet those, you know what, there are options available to you to finance that. And we'll get into that in more detail. And then the last is it's too risky. Um, I read something, and my corporate experience was in the restaurant and food industry. And, the success rate of non-franchises, especially in food, is pretty darn low. And, the good thing about franchising is that you'll get to see what the success rate is. You'll get to hear, why did one or two people close in the last 5 years? Was it just not a good fit? Did someone get a divorce? What happened? But you get to peel back that onion and really understand it. Where if you're starting a business from scratch, it's kind of difficult to go to your potential competitors and be like, hey, tell me what happened. Tell me what I need to avoid as I start this business. So it does not negate your risk, but it certainly can mitigate your risk. Okay. So how do you fund your business? This is something that is probably the biggest question and the biggest kind of area of mystery to a lot of people. So, as I mentioned, I'll give an example. I owned a senior care franchise, and then I bought a resale of a kickboxing franchise. But if you were going to open, a fitness franchise from scratch, let's say the total investment 300,000. That includes the one-time franchise fee, the build out, the initial insurance, and in the FDD you'll see a full chart. You should be comfortable with a minimum of 20% or 60,000, and that is your liquid or equity injection towards that total investment. So the qualifications for us, meaning that we can show you, a certain amount of options, is 100 to 200,000 for most home-based or small office businesses. And this is the total investment, not net worth. I misspoke there. But so looking at a service, 100 to 200,000, retail will be 2 to 3 times that. Credit score 680 and above. That's more for qualification for funding. Liquid capital, that is not necessarily just cash. That is what you can use within the next 3 months. That could be equity in your home. That could be using a loan or a rollover from a 401k or a TSP. Net worth, that is everything. At Vetrepreneur, we have a calculator. So if you want to go through that exercise, but that is everything. That is all your assets, equity in your home, cash, retirement accounts, any investment properties, precious metals, minus the liabilities that you have to come up with the net worth. The net worth, our minimum is 100,000 or above. If you do not meet that, we're not going to be able to show you businesses that you will qualify for any kind of funding, unless you're just writing a check for the entire thing. So funding options, what are the most popular things? SBA loan is the most popular. The SBA is not a bank, they're a guarantor. So, an SBA loan, there's a line on there that says, what is your experience in this industry? And you're going to be like, well, I don't have any. Well, that's why you're doing a franchise. The franchisor will typically assist you with a templated business plan and kind of help you identify and work through that process. Home equity line of credit, a lot of people use that either for funding or for their equity injection towards a loan. And then a rollover for business startup. That started in the Ford administration to spur small business ownership. So basically what you're doing is you're taking a 401k or your TSP. The only restriction is you cannot use a Roth IRA because there's already been a tax event, but you're using those funds, rolling it over into a C corporation, and you, without a tax event or an early withdrawal penalty. And the only caveat I would say is that you need a reputable company that understands the rules and that can set it up and make sure that you stay in compliance. But if you're currently working and your 401k is tied up with your current employer, obviously that is not eligible for this. But if you have one that is just out there, like a TSP, I had a 401k when I left my last corporate job, rolled it over, no tax event, no early withdrawal penalty, and I completely self-funded my first franchise. So it is very common for small business funding. And then the last one that a lot of people don't think about is friends and family. You know, a lot of people are looking at franchising for a legacy business. Maybe they have adult children they want to mentor. Maybe your parents, you know, want to assist you. Maybe they want to be a silent partner and invest in your business. There's a question around grants. There are a few grants for entrepreneurship, for veterans, for women-owned businesses, and other groups. And I encourage you to look at that. But typically, that should be viewed as more of a cherry on the sundae. There are typically hundreds, if not maybe a few thousand. And so it's not going to get you your entire 20% of your investment towards the total investment, but it can be a nice add-on. There's a lot of questions coming in about our fees, and I want to reiterate, our coaching and the Academy program is complimentary to you. Okay. So the 10 steps to franchise ownership. I like a nice Gantt chart, and I think this is a very good one. So, you know, the first 4 steps in our process, you're in step 1, which is participating in the franchise boot camp in this information assessment. The second one is taking our online assessment. It will feel a little bit like a personality test, and it has that element, but it has 7 methodologies underneath it to really get at what is important to you in a business and a work setting. And that's a snapshot because that will change over time. When I was in my 30s, I didn't care how much I worked as long as I was doing well. Where in my mid 50s, I cared quite a bit. You know, it will capture a little bit of your risk profile. How do you want to spend your time? And that will guide our initial discovery call, which is step 3. Once we have that discovery call and we figure out what is important to you, what is your risk profile? How do you want to spend your time? Do you want to be the face of the business? Do you not want to be the face of the business and you prefer more of a marketing driven business? Geography, all that kind of thing. We will come up with a list of options. And then we will present them to you and discuss it. So that is step 1 through 4. That typically takes a couple weeks, and that is more introspection about you. Step 5 through 10 is more about really doing the hard work of your due diligence, understanding the franchise system. Is it a good fit for you? During that process, we will make an introduction to 2 to 3 franchise systems. Then we will also work with you on funding, coming up with a funding strategy. Probably the earlier, the better. At some point, you will go into step 7 when the franchisor discloses you. As your franchise Sherpa, we are still involved to take the mystery out of the FDD. What are some things that you should look at to make sure that you understand what you're getting yourself into? And then step 8 is validation. Chris is fond of saying this is the most important step, not even close. And that is absolutely true. That is where you get to speak to other franchise owners. They can sort of fill in the gaps, maybe on some of the financial information. Would they do it again? What do they like about the franchise system? What would they have done differently? And then if all's going well, you like them, the franchisor thinks you could be a good fit, then they invite you to a discovery day, a meet the team day, same thing. After that, then they will make a decision on awarding, meaning, are you going to be awarded a franchise territory? And then you typically have, you know, somewhere between 3 and 10 days to make a decision, and then you become a franchise owner. So it is a fun process. It typically takes about 10 weeks to go through the 10-step process. With the Academy, you're going to get some group sessions with some fantastic speakers, like a CPA that focuses on franchise clients for funding, a franchise attorney during the FDD review part of the process. So you will get a lot of additional things as part of the academy. Okay.
Guys,
Chris,
Sarah
take it
Brown.
away.
Thank you. Sarah Brown, in case you haven't noticed, forgot more about franchising than most of us will ever know. She is phenomenal and a Navy veteran. So if you are lucky enough to get her as your coach, you're going to be in good hands. But we've got phenomenal coaches across the board. And so if you're interested in that, that's what we're talking about now. So that's pretty much franchising 101. So we gave it to you there in about 30, 35 minutes. For some of you, your franchising journey, maybe there were some things you were already aware of. For others, everything in that was new, and that's okay. Our job is to bring everybody, regardless of where you are, we're going to meet you where you are. We're going to bring you up to a certain level, and we're going to walk through this journey together. And it is an exciting journey, I will tell you. It is one, like I said before, you can certainly do it on your own. You can certainly do what I call going to the franchise buffet, which you can find by Googling franchising, and you will get hit with all kinds of information from all different sources. My God, who do I trust? It's the wrong time. I'm getting information here. I'm subscribing to lists. I'm looking over here. I want to do the franchise that's in this top 10 list or what have you. Those are all the wrong reasons to do it. And most people that end up going to the buffet end up not doing anything or making an uninformed decision. Sometimes that can lead, luckily, to the right thing, but it usually does not. So why not use a Sherpa going through it? Anyway, that's what we are here to do. We are going to talk at the end about franchise coaching, but we are here primarily today to talk about Franchise Academy. And if you are interested in applying for that, we are going to tell you how to do that. Our number one goal in the Franchise Academy is to get you to a decision point on two things. One, is franchising right for you? And secondly, have we found the right franchise for you? This is an academy. You're going to learn an awful lot about franchising as you move through this academy. But it is important to note that this is also a process of going through and becoming recognized as somebody that franchise wants to bring into their system as a franchise owner. And the goal of this academy is for you to become a vetrepreneur. If you do that, this is what you get in addition, right? You're part of the club. You're part of Vetrepreneur. We've got these great plaques that are made that all of our vetrepreneurs have gotten. They're made by service-disabled, veteran-owned small business down in Winchester, Virginia. And then a few really ultra-successful vetrepreneurs get to be on the cover of our magazine. So those are some of the things, but listen, that's just window dressing. Obviously, the thing here is potentially going to be life-changing for you. Our process, as Sarah laid out, 10 steps, 10 weeks. There will be some homework that you've got along the way, and our job is to get you through that. It's an active process, and you're going to be doing some work, but that's what the coach is here to hold you accountable for doing that work, give you perspective on everything along the way. Next slide. Some of those key elements, right? So we talked about franchise coaching a little bit, and we'll talk about it at the end. Franchise coaching is purely a one-to-one relationship. We're going to go through the same 10 steps over 10 weeks, you with your coach, as Sarah just laid out. The academy is all of that plus 5 individual group coaching sessions. She talked about the accountants and the lawyers and all these people that are going to come in and enlighten us on various aspects of the whole process. The other thing is that you get to spend time going through that process with your class. Typically, our classes are anywhere from 30 to 35 students. We are fairly selective. We usually get more people apply for the academy than we have seats to hold. So we have actually doubled up on the academy classes that we're holding. We're now starting to hold those every 2 weeks, just out of demand. So we're trying to give everybody the opportunity to go through that class. You're also going to have 24/7, literally 20, don't call them at 3 a.m., but for the most part, 24/7 access to your coach. Anything that comes up, feel free to hit them with a text or a call. You will also have those pre-planned calls about every 1 to 2 weeks with your coach, and then they will be introducing you to other people along the way. So it's a phenomenal program, not only to learn about franchising, but again, you should really only apply for this class and this academy if you plan to pursue and actually own a franchise at the end of that 10 weeks. That does not mean you're obligated to do so. We do have students that go through the class and realize that franchising is not for them, and that is perfectly okay, because that's one of our goals. Is it right for you? But you've got to go in there with the intent to purchase a franchise, get into franchising, and open your business if you so choose that that's the right decision for you. Also recommend, if you're married or you have a significant other, even if they're not going to be involved in the business, we encourage you to bring them, have them be involved in this very active process, attend as many of the sessions as they're able, because even if they're not involved, they will be impacted, hopefully in a very positive way, but these can be very life-changing decisions. So definitely want to include them along the way. Okay, next slide. This is our calendar for 2502. So you guys are in the information session for class 2502. We'll get into the application here next. I think that's the next slide, but this is our information session. You can see there on Valentine's Day. Applications will happen over the weekend. We will review those applications next week, and you will get an admission decision sometime next week. I think it's Wednesday, or I think it's Wednesday perhaps, that you're going to get that. We'll go over those details. But next Friday will be our Academy kickoff. We'll introduce the entire class. We'll introduce your coaches, and we'll get fired up for getting into this process. After that, you will have your discovery call with your coach. You'll go ahead and schedule that. You'll schedule your franchise options call with your coach, and then we will meet again as a group 3 weeks after that kickoff. We'll have 3 successive group presentations, group meetings. Those group meetings are typically 45 minutes to an hour. We schedule them for an hour. Sometimes they're a little bit less than that. And so those are the times for that. And then finally, we will end up with, at the conclusion, we will have a graduation ceremony there on May 9th. So we will be celebrating everybody who graduated from the class. By the way, you don't have to open a franchise in order to graduate. To graduate, you have to make it through at least step 8, which is validation, which is where you're talking with other franchise owners. And you need to attend 4 out of the 5 group calls. Okay, next slide. This is our team, guys. It is not just Sarah Brown or Chris Hale. It is an entire team. It's a phenomenal team. In that group, there are coaches, former Chick-fil-A operators. There are multi-unit owners. We've got a wealth of experience, and every single person that is on our coaching staff is our coaches are have some connection to the military, either veterans themselves or military spouses. And then we've got a phenomenal support team, right? So there's people behind the scenes doing territory checks for us, making introductions, loading up things on your portal for you to be able to explore more about these franchises, understand more about them. And so lots of people there. Those are some of the folks in the second row. And then finally, we've got some outside folks that we have partnered with. So talked about lawyers and accountants, and we've got loan specialists that can, work with you on an SBA loan, or, whatever you decide to do. If you decide to do a rollover for business startup, we've got folks that can help you with that. So a great support staff. It's really a one-stop shop if you want to get into franchising. Next slide. Franchise selection. I talked about the buffet. Okay. When I go to the buffet, I eat way too much. And I usually start at the stuff that's really sweet or meaty. And then I end, if I have a little bit of room left at the end, I put some things that grew out of the ground in the form of a plant in my body. Not a good situation, right? Don't feel good about that when it's all said and done, and emotionally or physically. And that's kind of what the franchise buffet is going to do for you. Listen, we've all been to a food buffet, And I'm sure many of you have been to the franchise buffet. Again, all that is Googling franchising. But I would encourage you not to hit up a bunch of stuff and register in a bunch of places, or frankly, be swayed by, oh, these are the top franchise brands and home services, or these are the top fitness franchises, or what have you. Franchise selection and franchise matching is very much a custom individual activity. Think of it, you would never, as a woman, would never go out and have a wedding dress that isn't fitted, right? Or a really nice suit that a man's going to wear to a wedding or a really important event. You would never just buy it off the shelf and not make any alterations, right? A custom suit or a custom fit is really what's important here. And this is something that you're going to be involved with for a very long time. So think of your coaches as sort of the eHarmony of franchising, right? And we're going to design that custom made suit for you. Here's the difference, guys. When you look at buying investing in maybe, let's say, a mutual fund for your retirement fund, for your 401k, you're going to be investing in something that somebody else is operating and controlling, the income that's going to make. The difference is you can't take it that way when it comes to franchising. You can't match that way because you're the difference, right? You are the person that is going to be running that, and you are very different than all the other people that are running that business. So one person may have a high degree of success in a business. The same business, different person may be met with not a high degree of success. And the key thing there is the match. So our coaches go through a very exhaustive process. It's 6 parts. We start with your why. We want to know what is driving you and what you want to get out of this business. It goes to your fears. What are the things that you've thought about, or the things that you're fearful of? What are your skills and interests, right? Where are you best suited in terms of the things that you are really good at? What does your lifestyle look like, right? So do you have kids? Don't you have kids? Are you married or not? Are you okay working weekends? If so, then food might be good for you. If you don't plan to work weekends, food's the last thing you want to do. So there's a lot of lifestyle considerations in there. And then finally, what are your geographical preferences and what is your financial capacity? And all of those things blend into a combination of science and experience to put forth franchises that we believe are going to be very, very well suited for you. Okay, next slide. Going to wrap up here soon, guys. Franchise Academy expectations. Listen, no different than any other course that we've all been through in the military or any other professional relationship that you might, we've worked. We just expect you to be on time to do the things that you're asked to do prior to the next meeting, and to attend, right? Half of success is showing up, right? And so we expect all of that to be from our students. Okay, next slide. Who are the most attractive applicants? I can tell you it's not that guy, Sasquatch again, but we want people who have a very strong desire and a very compelling reason to own their business. So what is driving you, right? If you've got a strong desire to do that, those are the kind of people that we want to work with and put through this academy. Do you have the discipline? You saw the schedule from now through, the next couple of months. Do you have the time and the discipline to create the time to spend on this process? Are you committed to making a decision in 10 weeks? If you're just in this to sort of learn something, not the right thing for you. This is a very active process. And we want to make sure that you're committed to making a decision on franchising within those 10 weeks. Fear is always going to be part of it. Recognize that's part of it. It's a big change. It's a big thing. And so that's just a very natural reaction to that. If you feel like you want to do just this franchise in this sector, or just this other franchise because your friend told you about it or it appeared on a list, we are not the right fit for you. So if you're already committed and know that you just want to do a specific franchise, that you're on your own. We want to make sure that we are very much involved in that selection process, because we know that is what creates success after ownership. And so if you're open to that, great. Listen, if you have some things in mind that you've already kind of checked out and you're looking at and you're thinking about, that's okay. We just want to make sure that you're open-minded to consider other things. And then we're looking at owner operators or some, folks that are willing to do semi-absentee. Both of those are qualified. And then obviously financial qualified. So 680 plus credit score. If you don't have a 680, you can contact us. We'd be happy to put you in touch with a credit repair specialist. But at the end of the day, you're not going to qualify for loans, and you're just a lot of things aren't going to work if you don't have that minimum 680. And then some of the other financial qualifications there. So that's what makes an attractive applicant. So if that is you and you're interested, next slide, let's get into what that application process looks like. Back to you, Sarah.
Fantastic. So we have a QR code, or you can go to the website vetrepreneur.com/apply. The application deadline is this upcoming Monday at midnight Eastern. So the sooner the better. We will notify you if you were approved for the Academy on Tuesday, February 18th by 5 p.m. Eastern. We're going to kick off with a group meeting, and fun will be had by all on Friday, February 21st from 12 to 1 Eastern. Because we're all over the country, we do everything in Eastern Standard Time. So please use the QR code, go to vetrepreneur.com. There's a lot of questions around, like, can we use the net worth calculator? You will have the ability to see step 1 and 2 if you go to vetrepreneur.com and set up an account. And the net worth calculator is under step 2, task 2. So you will have access to that. Okay. And then Vetrepreneur Franchise Coaching. So if you are not going to do the Academy, let's say you look at it and you're like, you know what, that with my schedule, I just can't make enough of the group sessions. Well, if you can't, then you can do individual coaching. That will be a fantastic process for you as well. If you are part of the Academy, you get the franchise coaching as part of the Academy, plus the other things that Chris spoke about. But if the Academy itself, if you can't meet the group sessions or some of the other requirements, you can sign up just to do one-on-one coaching. You have 24/7 access. I have clients that text me all the time, and I think it's fantastic. So you can still go through the process even if you are not part of the Academy. We also, through our concierge partners, have accounting, tax planning, financing, and legal experts that we connect you with. Okay, so let's go into a Q&A. Normally we put a little evil cartoon mustache on those that are not here, but they are busy coaching and working with other clients as we speak. So you're going to have Chris and I, and during the Q&A, we'll have the QR code up here for the Academy and then to sign up for one-on-one coaching. Some of the questions, Chris, I think, go us. We've answered them as we go. Okay, so this is a great question. Someone asked, should they go out and, before they make a decision on becoming a small business owner and work for someone else, if they're interested in a certain industry or small business? And I would argue that is really not required. I think for a lot of people, the hesitation and the fear comes into, well, I've never owned a business, I can't do this. I'm here to tell you that you can. I had never owned a business. I can follow directions. I asked for help when needed. And it was amazing how I made things so much more difficult in my mind than they really were. There's a lot of resources available to you as a small business owner, and those that ask for help and seek it out tend to do better. But I mean, if you want to, I'm certainly not going to say that you can't, but I'm saying that is not required, before you do this. Absolutely not. And it said, can you be the franchise owner and be the general manager or employee? Of course, you absolutely can be. there's a few franchises where you can be the only employee. You may start, especially if you're going to be an owner operator, where you may be the only employee, and the way you're going to scale is you're going to hire people as you grow. Most franchises, I would say, even the low cost ones, you may start with one other employee, and the franchisor will provide a lot of guidance on what that employee, what are they doing? How should you hire them? That kind of thing. Okay. All righty. There's a lot of questions around funding. So if you meet the minimum requirements, 680 credit score and above, 100,000 plus net worth, and 20 to 50,000 liquid, obviously more is better. That allows you to look at more options. You should qualify for some options, but I think you should still apply. Okay. Are you in? Okay. Alrighty, and we've already answered the academy is complimentary. Chris, what happens if I miss a class or two, or what happens if I'm not financially qualified for this one? Can I apply later?
If you miss a class, we put you in the corner with a dunce cap and we make fun of you. But outside of that, you can miss up to 2 of the group sessions. There's 5 group sessions leading up to graduation. You're allowed to miss 2 of those, but we do ask that you watch the recording. So we understand, people have schedules, and that's okay. You can watch the recording after that.
Okay. There is someone that says, I'm still active duty. I go on terminal leave in October. When is a good time to start? Well, I would say, because I was in the Navy, I'm going to use a Navy term. If you're on shore duty, and you have the time right now to go through the process, you need to have available, somewhere around 3 to 5 hours a week to put towards your research, and to be committed to doing it. If you know that if you're on terminal leave and you're going to stay wherever you are, I would say go ahead and start the process. Some of our clients go through it and they've made a decision and they're like, hey, I'm getting out, or I'm going out of the country, and maybe they want to delay their opening, but they want to have their plan B figured out. They want to secure a territory. Those are things you can negotiate with a franchisor, saying, hey, I've made a decision. I can't do X, Y, and Z maybe until November or December. Those things can be worked out. But if you're going to stay put geographically, I would say go ahead and start. You're kind of in that within 6 months sort of window.
Yeah.
Indeed. Okay. And
Sir,
this is.
Okay.
Go ahead.
I was gonna say, somebody's asking about the next class. The next class, guys. So this class kicks off next Friday. The next class will be 2 weeks after this one. So the information session for the next class will be 2 weeks from today, February 28th. And then that class will kick off on March 7th. So it'll be 2 weeks after this one. So if you're interested in that one, because the timing for this one does not work out, go ahead and submit your application and just annotate in there that you'd like to apply for the follow-on class.
Yep. There's someone here that said they've already started the one-on-one coaching. Can they still apply for the academy? It seems like you're pretty far along. So to be honest, I don't know if you want to delay, if you're already at step 7, but it's something you can bring up with your coach. And if it's me, then bring it up with me. But okay. How is this program different from the business building program that teaches business plans and brand creation? It is very different. Those are great programs. I have done a lot with the SBA and SCORE, talking about entrepreneurship through franchising over the years. There's a lot of great classes that will talk about that. The beauty of a franchise is that what you're paying for is their subject matter expertise and their business processes. I am fond of telling clients, hey, most of them are incredibly sharp people. Could they figure out how to do a certain business? Probably. But how much time and money would they waste trying to figure it out? Where a franchise already knows the go-to-market strategy for this particular business. What is the legal and appropriate marketing message? What is the correct amount of insurance? What is, they have typically a proprietary supply chain set up. What is the equipment? How do you train your team? All those things. And those things take time to figure out. So the business building programs that teach business plans and brand creation are probably a little more for more traditional startups. A business plan and franchising, often they'll give you a templated business plan and you're just localizing it for your particular market. Okay, hope that answered your question.
Sarah, I want to address a couple of questions here about financial qualifications. So somebody said, I've got a 640, should I apply? And is the credit repair complimentary? So if you've got a 640 right now, you should not apply unless you have a business partner that has something north of a 680. So if you've got a spouse or a significant other or a battle buddy or someone who's going to be opening the business with you, they can be, and they're north of 680, then you can start the process. If not, you're not going to be admitted to the class. The credit repair specialist, there are plenty of them out there. We've got some great ones that have had phenomenal success. We can connect you to them. But they are not free. I don't know exactly how much they cost. It's not excessive. Somebody else asked about if you're short on the liquid capital or the net worth, should you bother applying? And the answer is no. You need to have a certain amount of financial liquidity in order to have just the financial capacity to go through this process and open a business. So you've got a couple of options for that. You can either, spend less than you make and save up and come back later, or you can combine with a battle buddy or somebody else that can help you with that. I'll throw this out there. A lot of folks have looked at parents who might be you might be sitting on an inheritance. You might have parents who are at a point in their lives when they realize they're not going to spend everything that they have in their nest egg. And they, rather than leave it to you in a will, they may want to leave it to you now, a portion of it, and help you with starting your business. So those are things, if you've got a family member that can help you with some of that liquid or net worth, that can qualify you.
Yeah. And, there's other questions about, what if there's something I'm looking at? Chris mentioned if you have made up your mind about a particular franchise, then this is not for you. Because what we're trying to help you do is figure out, do you want to do it? And if so, what is that custom suit? And if you've already, made up your mind, you've kind of gone through that process. But I would say this, if you have your heart set on X, Y, and Z, you would never buy the only house that you looked at. That's just kind of crazy. And so I would encourage you to open up your horizons. There's a couple questions around different industries and businesses. And my personal story is that, I have a food restaurant background. So I did what most people do. I looked at food, went to a discovery day, great franchise, one you've probably heard of, and said, wow, food's been good to me, but I need a change of scenery. And met a coach. 3 months later, bought a senior care franchise. I remember telling the coach when he showed it to me, I love my mother. That's it. And it was a great business for me. It leveraged the skills, the things that I like doing, and it was fantastic. So I would say have a point of comparison. And most of our clients that move forward with a franchise, interestingly, it's not the one that they were initially the most excited about. It's one that they became more excited about what the business could do for them and for their family. It leveraged what they were good at. It was something they could feel good about. It fit their risk profile, their lifestyle, and their family could get on board. So I am a big fan of not particularly exciting businesses or sexy ones on paper. What I like about most businesses is their upside and fit for a person. And the other thing I will say is that, for example, let's say that you have your heart set on a low cost franchise. Well, if you don't like talking to people and being out and about and you want to buy one because your cousin has one, I am here to tell you, I don't like your chances if you don't want to be out and about and network and talk to people. So be upfront with yourself about what you're willing to do and how you like and what you want to do to spend your time. If you're an introvert and you do not want to be the face of the business, that's great. We'll work with you to find something where that is not required. So hopefully that helped. We do have franchise options in all 15 major industries: service, retail, things that have recurring revenue, high ticket item, low ticket item. But we will sit down with you and figure out what makes sense. The reason we don't give a list is because that is going back to the buffet. And, people like something on paper and then it turns out they're not financially qualified for it, or it's just not a good fit for them for whatever reason. Okay.
There were some questions about upcoming class dates, and if they're not on the website, Edgar is and Sherry are behind the scenes here. If you guys wouldn't mind, take a note to send out that to all the folks in the class today. Send out the list of upcoming dates and how they need to, if they want to apply for a future date. Somebody said, I'm going to be tied up for a month and a half, but I'd like to start after that 1.5 months. So we can get those dates out to you. But essentially, guys, it's about every 2 weeks from here on out. And if you've already attended this information session, you do not need to attend it again to apply for the next class if you don't want to apply for this class in particular.
Yeah, we do this every other Friday, and this is the only time you have to attend this information session. There's a question by, I would assume, the same person about business plans, and we don't really do that. That's not kind of in our area of expertise. We don't buy or deal with that. That's what the franchisor works with. But thank you for that question. And then the net worth calculator, once again, it will be on vetrepreneur.com. You'll see the portal. Step 1 will be the video, that you're participating in now. Step 2, if you go to step 2 and then in the middle, there'll be 3 tasks, and the net worth calculator will be in the middle at task 2. So I highly encourage you to do that. And, there's a few last questions around small business friendly locations in certain states. That's a great question. And I think we'll end on this one, Chris, if you don't mind. But, for example, if you live in a location, a big part of what we'll do is see, is it available in that location? Franchisors will have viable territory, maybe by population, certain number of households or number of businesses, depending on what they do. And then they will see if it's available and viable in your particular market. So if you live in a more rural area and you're looking for a service franchise, your territory is going to be a little more spread out, than if you live in Miami, where that may be 2 or 3 territories in and of itself. Retail will typically look at a market and see how many that market can support. And then last but not least, there's some questions around just sources for veterans in small businesses. I would encourage you maybe to go look at the SBA website. There are local things available to you. But if you are interested in exploring small business ownership through franchising, I think this program, the Academy, or just the one-on-one coaching will be a good starting point for you.
Sarah, I just wanted to say one last thing. If there are any questions that we did not fully answer, guys, or if there's any questions that we didn't get to or anything that comes up after this, I put an email address in the chat for Sherry Evans, part of our, who's a great member of our team. You can email Sherry and she will answer those questions for you or route it to us and we can answer those questions for you. So I don't want anybody to not have access to where they get questions answered. So it's Sherry, SHERI.Evans, EVANS @vetrepreneur.com, and that's in the chat.
I want to thank everybody for their time today. Great questions, great involvement, and have a fantastic weekend. And we look forward to working with some of you, whether it's through the Academy or one-on-one coaching.
Thanks, guys.
From the battlefields to the boardrooms, the spirit of a veteran is unyielding. Risk takers, disciplined executors, team builders. Military service has forged us into professionals with the ability to get it done. But what's next after service? Meet the legends: Fred Smith, founder of FedEx; Jewett Cathy, founder of Chick-fil-A; Ross Perot, founder of Perot Systems; Phil Knight, founder of Nike; and Gordon Logan, founder of Sport Clips. They turned their military discipline into entrepreneurial success. And so can you. Why franchising? It's the ideal pathway for a vetrepreneur, a proven business model, a roadmap to success, and an industry that understands the skills you bring. Franchising means using proven systems, intensive training, and a support system designed to make you successful. 1 out of every 7 franchises is owned by a military veteran. You can join their ranks. Your next mission awaits, and we're here to guide you. Your legacy is just beginning.